Today, billions of people follow different religions and different beliefs. But this didn't begin in the modern world. Thousands of years ago, during the Bronze Age, the earliest civilizations built their lives around gods. In Sumer, in ancient Egypt, and across distant cultures separated by thousands of miles, people feared their gods, worshipped them, and lived to keep them satisfied. These were different civilizations speaking different languages with very limited contact. And yet, when you place them side by side, a pattern begins to stand out. A pattern in their gods, their stories, their symbols. One that is difficult to explain. How did civilizations that never truly met arrive at such similar ways of imagining the world? Today we look at the major gods of each Bronze Age civilization, and by the end, that pattern may start to become clear. We begin at the very start of recorded history, Sumer, around 3300 BCE. The Sumerians believed in a vast and complex world of gods, each representing a fundamental part of existence. Among the most important was Anu, the sky above and the supreme authority. Beneath him was Ki, the fertile earth below that sustains all life. Together, Anu and Ki formed the basic structure of the world, the heavens above and the earth below. Between them was Enlil, the god of wind and air. The Sumerians saw him as a force moving between heaven and earth. He represented authority, kingship, and the act of bringing order to the world itself. Then there was Enki, the god of the deep waters, wisdom, and creation. His domain lay hidden beneath the visible world, a vital subterranean source of water that sustained all life. And at the center of many Sumerian beliefs stood Inanna, a goddess of love, fertility, power, and war. She embodied the forces that create life and the forces that violently disrupt it. The Sumerians worshipped these gods, performed rituals, and tried to keep them satisfied, believing the very balance of their world depended on them. They left behind their own version of how the world began. According to Sumerian belief, at the very beginning, before the sky and earth took form, there was only a vast primordial sea. This was Namu. She was regarded as the mother of the gods, the source from which life was believed to emerge. Namu gave birth to Anu and Ki, the sky and the earth. At first, they remained joined as one, until their son, Enlil, separated them, forming the world as it was understood. From these depths came Enki, son of Namu, the god of fresh water, wisdom, and creation. And eventually, humans were created from clay. They were given a clear purpose to serve the gods, perform labor, and maintain the balance of the world. Now we shift to ancient Egypt in the time of the Old Kingdom and explore their gods, and their story of creation. A few thousand miles from Sumer, along the Nile, in ancient Egypt, people too built their world around gods. During the early Old Kingdom, their beliefs were centered around a smaller and more defined group of deities. Among the most important was Ra, the sun, and the supreme source of life and authority. Each day, he was believed to travel across the sky, bringing light to the world, and at night, he journeyed through the underworld before rising again at dawn. Alongside him were the other gods that shaped the structure of the world. Governing the space between was Shu, the god of air, who was believed to hold the sky and the earth apart. Beside him stood Tefnut, the goddess associated with moisture, representing the elements that sustain life. Below them lay Geb, the earth itself, seen as the source of vegetation and life. Arching above them was Nut, the goddess of the sky. The Egyptians said that she swallowed the sun each evening and gave birth to it again at dawn. They believed the world was held together by order and that maintaining it was their responsibility as the gods intended. According to ancient Egyptian texts, this is how the world began. At the very beginning, there was only a vast primordial expanse of water called Nun, seen as a male deity from which the first god emerged, Atum, the creator god who was later associated with Ra, the sun god, bringing the first sense of order into the world. From Atum came Shu, the god of air, and Tefnut, the goddess associated with moisture and rain. Shu and Tefnut produced Geb, the earth god, and Nut, the sky goddess. At first, Geb and Nut remained joined together until Shu separated them, creating the space in which the world could exist. And within this world, humans were said to have emerged from the tears of Ra and were given the responsibility to maintain Ma'at, the cosmic stability that held their world together. Now let's head far to the east, beyond the lands of Egypt and Mesopotamia. Another civilization was beginning to take shape. Along the river plains of the Indus River, early settlements were growing slowly, steadily, and with unparalleled precision. By around 2600 BCE, this region would become the Indus Valley Civilization, a center of trade connecting distant lands through networks that stretched across the ancient world. Despite its sophisticated systems and architecture, the people of this civilization left behind no clear record of how they believed the world began. What we have found are fragments, figurines, symbols, and undeciphered texts that offer no direct account of creation. Among these are mother goddess figurines suggesting a connection to fertility and nature, along with a well-known seal showing a figure seated in a yogic posture, often identified as Pashupati. meaning Lord of all living creatures, a form associated with Shiva in present-day Hindu tradition. But these interpretations remain uncertain, and while later traditions in the region do contain detailed stories of creation, I won't go into those here because there's no clear record from the Indus people themselves. So rather than speculate, we return to a land where these ideas were preserved. By around 2300 BCE, a new power had already risen in Mesopotamia. This brings us to the Akkadian Empire. After the defeat of the Sumerian city-states around 2334 BCE, the Akkadian Empire emerged as the first large empire in Mesopotamia. But unlike many empires that erase what came before them, the Akkadians did not destroy Sumerian culture. Instead, they adopted Sumerian culture and with it their gods and beliefs. For example, the Sumerian Inanna became the Akkadian Ishtar. In Akkadian belief, she came to hold greater importance, particularly as a goddess associated with war and power, reflecting the nature of an expanding empire. There is no separate Akkadian account of how the world began, which makes me believe they adopted the Sumerian story of creation just as they adopted their gods. By the 21st century BCE, the Akkadian Empire had collapsed, and within the following century, another power rose in Mesopotamia, the Babylonian Civilization, bringing a different set of gods and a more defined story of creation. After the fall of the Akkadian Empire, Mesopotamia didn't stay under one power for long. By the early 2nd millennium BCE, a new city began to take control, the city of Babylon. And from here, the Babylonian civilization rose. Before looking at the gods, here's something which I found interesting. The Babylonians didn't come up with a completely new set of gods. They inherited them from the Akkadians, and that makes me wonder, did they even know where these gods originally came from? Because if you trace them back far enough, many of them go all the way to the Sumerians. And these gods weren't the same back then. Their roles were different. Their nature was different, and over time, they were reshaped just like Inanna becoming Ishtar. Now let's look at the gods. The most important god for the Babylonians was Marduk. They believed he brought order to the world, and he was the one who ruled over all the other gods. Alongside him were the other gods the Babylonians worshipped, like Shamash, the god of justice, Sin, the god of time and cycles, Ishtar, and Ea, the god of wisdom and water. Ea was originally Enki, but his name was changed by the Akkadians. Now the Babylonians left behind a detailed story of creation. This text is called the Enuma Elish today. As per the Babylonians, before the sky and the earth, there were two primordial beings, Apsu and Tiamat. Apsu was the freshwater river, and Tiamat was the saltwater sea. Apsu and Tiamat gave birth to other gods. These were called the younger gods. Over time, these younger gods became noisy and active, so Apsu decided to fight them, but he was killed by them. After the death of Apsu, Tiamat became angry and started producing monsters. Marduk, from the younger gods, decided to fight Tiamat on one condition, that he would rule over the other gods. He fought Tiamat, killed her, and brought balance to the world. And from Tiamat's body came the sky and the earth. Later, these younger gods were having trouble managing the world, so they created humans from the blood of the god Kingu and ordered them to serve the gods and do labor. After looking at this story and gods, what I think is that because they have inherited all the gods from the Akkadians, maybe the Babylonians added Marduk to have a god of their own and create a different identity. And since Ea, originally Enki, is considered the father of Marduk, maybe this was also a way of showing that the older order had passed and a new one had taken its place. I can be wrong, but I don't know if it's just me or if you guys also noticed that there's something these early civilizations knew or were in touch with that made all the civilizations believe or follow a similar story of gods and creation, and made them think that they are servants of the gods and meant to serve them. Even in Egypt, not literally as servants, but maintaining Ma'at was also kind of a role given to people. Now let's come back to something I mentioned in the beginning, the pattern. After seeing all these civilizations, there's one thing that stands out: the worship of the feminine across ancient civilizations. And along with that, these civilizations had multiple gods, each looking after the essential elements of life. And as you know, gods and religion are not something people adopt just because of trade. Yes, these civilizations may have been connected through trade, but to me, it's very hard to believe that these stories spread through trade and that people simply started worshipping them and placed them at the center of their civilization. And another thing that really intrigued me is how did these early civilizations know that life began in water? Today, with the help of modern science, we know that life began in water, and these civilizations also tell a similar story, that in the beginning there was water, and from it came all the gods or life. Not in the literal sense of something like amoeba, but at least knowingly or unknowingly, they got this idea right that life began in water. So, what are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments, and see you all in the next video where I'll be showing the temples and important architecture of ancient civilizations, and we'll see if there's any pattern or mystery that has been missed.